Hello again. Welcome back. Hot Tinage with George. I've got today's top 10. Last time I did my first top 10, episode 1. Basic premise is that I'll do 10 songs that happen to be floating around in my head at any given moment. And then we will, until the next one, and so on and so forth. I may use different formats as I go along, but right now, I don't know. This seems to be the one for me. So let's dive on in. Number 10 this time around. I've got Venus and Furs by the Velvet Underground. Absolutely an album unlike any other, then or since. George Martin used to have a thing that he would refer to as painting with sound. Some artists most definitely use that sort of mentality when they're recording. Lou Reed being no different, John Cale being no different. Also the late Sterling Morrison. I believe Mo Tucker's still with us. Let's see, Venus and Furs. I think Lou got the idea for the lyrics from the book of the same name, the novella. I think it was a novella. That droning viola of John Cale's is very entrancing. Very consistent, and Lou's employing that sort of very soothing, very consistent. It's it's just and even within the canon of the Velvet Underground, the song is uniqueness within uniqueness. Certainly one of the top 3, top 5 Velvet Underground songs. 1,000 Years, 1,000 Dreams. And one of those pieces of magic where no matter how many times you come back to it, it always offers up something different. Or you just catch something that you didn't quite notice before, and I'd say that is the most unique art, very haunting as well. Let's see, number 9. I've got Going to California. More Led Zepp. Inspired by Joni Mitchell, and quite a few great artists were, but particularly Jimmy Page, Robert Plant. Songs about her to a great degree, inspired by her to a great degree. And again, it's on Zeppelin 4, which is probably the greatest work of Led Zeppelin. Also on Led Zeppelin DVD, which I believe came out in 2003. That slow-mo moment where Jimmy realizes that he's gone off the path a little bit, and just kind of waits for John Paul Jones and Robert to come back around to the song. The fact that he would actually let that go, allow for a mistake like that, is I find truly inspiring, because few artists, most artists are control freaks, and they don't allow their humanity or that's kind of the problem with a lot of music today. Mistakes are something that can't be allowed, and I wholly disagree. you learn from mistakes. It's as simple as that. Zeppelin 4, one of the touchstone albums of all time. People won't always own up to that for one reason or another. It seems to be a little bit of a critical, I don't know, blame Lester Bangs, I guess. But the folks have always given them the respect that was due them. No question about that. Number 8 today, I've got Shock the Monkey, Peter Gabriel. The video for this is extraordinary and excellent. I remember I saw it as a kid back in the day when it was fresh, and it just, again, that organic connection between the art, between the humanity, and the natural world, and maybe a little mysticism thrown in as well for Peter Gabriel. I heard someone say that Shock the Monkey might have been, jealousy that's triggered in our primal emotions, and jealousy is good. It's totally human to be jealous, but it can produce some irrational results sometimes. But nevertheless, and of course, I can't help but think that maybe there's a little Lennon influence in there. Maybe, just perhaps, and maybe not necessarily that track, although quite could have been. And I'm sure, as quite a few artists who were influenced by Lennon, undoubtedly Peter Gabriel probably would have been as well. Yeah, definitely. Certainly within my lifetime, Peter Gabriel, one of the preeminent artists of the era, of the rock era. But yeah, Shock the Monkey, great tune. Number 7, I got Gidget Goes to Hell by Suburban Lawns. People tend to say post-punk with a splash of new wave. I don't know. I always thought that they were perfectly well-formed punk, and just with an emphasis on art and intelligence, and not everything has to be Neanderthal. So Suburban Lawns, yeah, they came out of LA, late 70s. Wasn't familiar with them until about, a year ago actually, and came into contact with them, and I was riveted. They've had a bunch of attention as of late, probably because they're one of their singers, although probably the primary singer, Sue Tissue, aka Sue McLean, who, I don't know if she went off grid, but she definitely probably changed her name, can't really be found, doesn't want to be found, etc. People are intrigued. I just separate the art from the artist, which you can do freely, because and I'll be coming back to Suburban Lawns because they wrote a lot of great music, and they didn't put out a lot of great music. So there's no telling what they would have done had they remained. But bands split, the art lives on, or it does not. And I think Suburban Lawns I will be returning to, because a year ago I barely knew who they were. Now I'm very familiar with their music. And Gidget Goes to Hell, Jonathan Demme, the director, I think it's Demme. Some people say Jonathan Demme. I could be the one that's wrong there. Well-known film director. He did a promo shoot for Gidget Goes to Hell. which is, you know, entertaining and entertaining enough to where I believe it was 1980, that video somehow made its way into the hands of Saturday Night Live in New York, who broadcast it nationwide. And, you know, for a band that, you know, that wasn't quote unquote huge, you know, to have anything on Saturday Night Live, or anything to do with Saturday Night Live would have been huge, especially at that time, pre-MTV. Let's see. Number six. Number 6, I have Transmission by Joy Division. And the late Ian Curtis. You know, I think New Order's alright, but I adore Joy Division, probably because of Ian Curtis. I was talking about, you know, the uniqueness of this band or that band, this album, that album. Well, that completely applies to Joy Division, who started out inspired by punk, playing punky songs, but managed to get to a point where they were just putting out stuff that just had not existed before, was giving an incredibly unique stamp produced by Martin Hannett. Their first album, Unknown Pleasures, I mean, or even Closer, which is different from Unknown Pleasures, but Unknown Pleasures tends to be a favorite. The track's on there. There's a point at the end of Transmission where Ian Curtis is he sings "Dance, Dance, Dance" to the radio, which I took a little inspiration from that. I had a song called Tribal Dance, which was on a project called Drenthe, Drenthe, an album we did called Physiognomies, which you could only find on Bandcamp currently. Do check it out. Let's see. Yeah, just the sheer uniqueness of Ian Curtis and Joy Division as a whole. There's no telling where it would have gone had Ian Curtis lived. Nevertheless, we do have the music. That's the beautiful thing about recordings, is we keep the art. We keep the art because, you know, in the words of Jim Morrison, no one here gets out alive. Number 6. No, I take that back. Number 5. Number 5, I have a song called Some People by Colleen Green on the album I Want to Grow Up. Caught her live when I was listening to this album quite a bit. She was kind enough to autograph it for me. This is a great album, and I saw her live in 2017, but when I got this album in 2015, I listened to it a lot. There's great rock, great pop. The pop is kind of a early 60s girl group flavored kind of rock, I guess you could say. She also has another album called Cool that I think is absolutely fantastic. There's a video from that album called Highway. She also would do this other thing between the rock and the pop, which I guess you would refer to it as indie disco. Well, she'll you know, bring her unique flavor to it. There will be, you know, like kind of a disco-y, funky thing going on. She does great work with synths as well. Highly influential. Summer of 2015, I tend to think of tend to think of these two albums, Magic Whip and I Want to Grow Up. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Number 4, I've got a song called Bike by Pink Floyd. Syd Barrett wrote it. I think most people realize that he was with Pink Floyd but for a single album, although in 1970 he had 2 solo albums released. And beyond that, that's pretty much the gamut. Although, Floyd went on to other things. What else can I say? Other than I will be returning to Syd Barrett time and time again, because what the man was able to release in such a short output is astounding. And we simply would not be talking about him or some of these other artists so many decades down the line if they hadn't put their absolute artistic stamp on the records, keep us coming back time and again. That's timeless art, and that's what it's all about, especially as a songwriter. You're listening for that unique blend that's going to add up to timeless art over the years. That's the aim, or one of the aims. Number 3, I've got Penny Lane, probably one of the greatest songs Paul McCartney ever wrote. Of course, it was recorded by the Beatles. The video is very interesting. Another promotional video where, but not where they're lip syncing, but where, they're just having unusual scenes being brought in. There's 2 schools of thought, when it comes to videos. The one that's more sort of absolutely artistically inclined, and it doesn't include miming. The other one that does, and they're both fine because ultimately you're using the studio track typically, and it's just different modes of expression. Penny Lane was also on what some people will say was, if not the greatest single, one of the greatest singles ever released by anybody. Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, double A side. Let's see. So Penny Lane, I think they used, 4 different pianos on the rhythm track. Not synths, folks, pianos. And of course, coming through that early '67 era, psychedelia is ramping up, and yet it still retains its sort of natural state of song, I think, which McCartney, I think he'd flirt more than being absolute psychedelic. He'd more or less flirt with sound. Some more of that George Martin painting with sound. I don't know. Obviously, I'll be back to discuss the Beatles at various intervals. Number 2, I've got Baby Britain by Elliott Smith on the EXO album. Elliott Smith, of course, dying young. Purportedly by himself, like purportedly Cobain by himself. I'm of the mind that they were both taken out by others, and nothing will shift me from thinking that. There's just so many things, there's so much circumstantial evidence in both of those cases. it is what it is. It's not going to bring them back. But again, these two, another couple of artists that are going to be with us for years and years and years, because of the level of songwriting involved and the mastery of the craft. Let's see. So yeah, neither one of those cases are going to be satisfactorily solved anytime soon, which is completely unfortunate. But then, in the words of the late great Jim Morrison, no one here gets out alive. What else? Also, Elliot, like Cobain, they did both talked of death frequently, but I don't think either one was, I just, for whatever reason, I don't know. Lots of people speak of death. It doesn't always add up to unaliving. Although that can and does happen. All right, today, number one, last fair deal gone down. Robert Johnson. When Robert Johnson recorded, and he recorded in the Gunter Hotel in San Antonio, that was one session. The other session being at 508 Dallas, Texas. The sessions with Don Law. He was recorded directly to disc. So, no hiccups, no burps. He had to be ready to go. And of course, this man was ready to go. I'm not going to talk about the famous Crossroads, and that particular deal. I think some of that's mythology, and not that I would ever deny that it's plausible. I don't know. I think they were looking for a bit of mythology, really, because he was moving some records in his own lifetime, because he recorded in 36, 37, 38. He two things. He died. He was poisoned, supposedly by a jealous juke joint owner, who Robert was making moves, I guess, on the guy's wife, and was poisoned, tainted whiskey. Also in 1938, I forget, one of the Hammonds, I think, I forget which one, maybe I'm wrong about this, putting together an Americana, what we would call Americana, different types of acts for a show, and I want to say, was it Carnegie Hall? I doubt it was Radio City. It was probably Carnegie, and Robert Johnson had been invited to attend and perform at this show. Instead, they just played a couple of his songs, I think, on record. That was to represent him after his passing. All right, kids. So this is episode 2. I will be doing episode 3 soon. Sorry to trying to space them out, but not too far apart. But not trying to bombard you at the same time. Also, I'm just not going to be asking for subscriptions, not going to be asking for likes, not going to be asking for notification bells. maybe at some point I will set up some kind of, if you want to be a patron, maybe I'll set something up, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, I guess that'll do it for today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.